Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. From wherever time zone that you are listening to another episode of History with a Twist, I welcome you. I'm your host, Hans, and if you love history, storytelling, and a bit of speculation, then you're in the right place. History with a Twist, the show where we explore the past, but with a fresh perspective. History as we know it is a collection of moments, decisions, and events that have shaped the world we live in today. But what if just one of those moments had turned out differently? What if a battle had gone the other way? What if a world leader had made a different choice? What if a seemingly minor event, like an art school rejection, had changed the course of human civilization? Today, we're going to explore some of the most intriguing what-if moments in history, turning points that, had they played out differently, might have completely altered the trajectory of our world. From the fall of empires to wars that could have been avoided or won, we'll dive into history's great forks in the road and try to imagine what life might look like today if history had taken another path. So whether you're a longtime history buff or just curious about the road not taken, sit back, relax, and let's dive into some of the greatest what-if moments of all time. Let's first explore one of the most debated alternate histories. What if Adolf Hitler had been accepted into art school? Now I know, this is a heavy topic, but stick with me. We're going to unpack how one rejection could have shaped the entire 20th century, and as always, I want to hear from you. So as you listen, think about this. Do you believe history is shaped by individuals, or are major events inevitable? Drop your thoughts in the comments, or if you're listening now, send in your responses now. Alright, let's set the scene. It's 1907. A young Adolf Hitler, full of ambition, applies to the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna. He's passionate about painting, but he gets rejected. Twice. And that failure? Well, it changes everything. Instead of becoming an artist, he turns to politics. Fast forward a few decades, and he's leading Nazi Germany, responsible for World War II and the Holocaust. But what if he had been accepted? Imagine an alternate timeline where Hitler spends his days painting cityscapes instead of planning invasions. No Nazi Germany, no Holocaust, no World War II. Sounds almost surreal, right? But let's break it down. Without Hitler's influence, Nazi ideology might never have gained traction. Millions of lives could have been spared. Europe wouldn't have faced devastation on an unimaginable scale. And here's where I want you to think. What do you think would have happened to Germany? Would another leader have stepped into the lead of war? Or could Europe have remained peaceful? Now, let's think even bigger. Without Hitler, global power dynamics might have shifted. Will the Cold War between the US and the Soviet Union have played out the same way? Maybe it would have been worse, maybe better. Imagine a world where Germany was never divided. What kind of Europe would we see today? But let's flip the script for a second. Could World War II have still happened under different circumstances? Rising nationalism and economic struggles already made the world unstable. If not Hitler, could another leader have taken his place? History isn't just about individuals. It's about movements, systems, and timing. Now, here's the big question that I want you to answer and get involved. Do you think a single decision, like an art school rejection, can truly change the course of history? Or do you believe history was bound to unfold in a similar way, no matter who was in power? Hit me up in the comments or tag us on the social media with your thoughts. At the end of the day, history is a chain reaction of small moments. And this one rejection, it might just be one of the most significant of all time. Let's explore another chilling alternate history. What if the Cold War had turned into a full-scale nuclear war? Imagine this. It's October 1962. The world is on edge. You turn on the radio and every news station is talking about Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba. Just a stone's throw away from the US coast. Leaders are scrambling, military forces are on high alert, and in the shadows, fingers hover over the nuclear launch buttons. Now, picture a different outcome, one where diplomacy fails. A single miscalculation occurs, and within minutes, the world erupts in fire and destruction. A full-scale nuclear war. How would history have changed? Would civilization as we know it have survived? For nearly 5 decades, the world stood on edge. The Cold War wasn't just about politics. It was a global standoff between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, both armed with nuclear weapons capable of wiping out humanity. One of the closest moments to disaster? The Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. Imagine that the US discovers Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from its shores. Tensions skyrocket. One wrong move, one misunderstanding, and boom, World War III begins. Pause and think about this for a second. What would have happened if someone had miscalculated? If a missile had launched, whether by accident or as a show of force? Send me your thoughts. How do you think world leaders would have reacted? While we're in here, let's play out the worst case scenario. A nuclear war wouldn't just destroy cities, it would erase civilizations. Imagine this. Missiles launch. Within minutes, New York, Moscow, Washington, and London turn to rubble. Millions die instantly. But that's just the beginning. The sky darkens, nuclear winter sets in. Without sunlight, crops fail. Global temperatures drop. The world plunges into chaos. Societies collapse. People struggle to survive in a frozen wasteland. If you're listening to this, take a moment to picture it. If you were one of the survivors, what would you do? Would you try to rebuild? Or would you focus on survival? But let's be honest. Humans are resilient. We've survived plagues, wars, and natural disaster. Could we have survived nuclear war? Maybe, but at what cost? Here's another question for you. If civilization had been reset by nuclear war, who do you think would have emerged as a new world power? Would any government have survived, or would it have been every person for themselves? Here's a chilling reminder. We dodged the bullet. The Cold War ended without direct conflict, but the threat of global destruction hasn't disappeared. Nuclear weapons still exist, and history shows us that tensions can rise quickly. Let's change things up a bit here. Let's step back over 2,000 years to revisit one of the most famous betrayals in history, the assassination of Julius Caesar. Picture this. It's March 15, 44 BCE, the Ides of March. Rome is thriving under Caesar's rule, but not everyone is happy. Inside the Senate, tensions are boiling over. A group of senators, fearing Caesar's growing power, make a fateful decision. As he enters the Curia of Pompey, he is surrounded. One senator strikes first. Chaos erupts. He is stabbed 23 times. Among his killers, his own close friend Brutus. This moment changes everything. The Roman Republic crumbles. Civil wars break out, and soon a new leader, Augustus, rises from the ashes to establish the Roman Empire. But let's ask a question that could rewrite history. What if Julius Caesar had survived? Would Rome have avoided civil war? Would the empire have been stronger? Would Dark Ages have ever happened? Caesar's assassination was supposed to save the Republic, but instead it fast-tracked its destruction. The senators who killed him hoped to restore Rome's old system of government, but their actions led to more chaos, not less. Now, imagine if Caesar had survived. He was already moving Rome toward autocracy, declaring himself dictator for life. Had he lived, Rome's transition from republic to empire might have been less violent and more structured. Think about it. Augustus, Caesar's adopted heir, became Rome's first emperor after years of brutal civil war. But what if the war had never ever happened? If Caesar had continued to consolidate power, would he have established a stable imperial system much earlier? Would the Senate have lost its authority more gradually, instead of through conflict? Caesar was not just a ruler. He was a conqueror. His military campaigns had already made him one of the most powerful figures in history. But he wasn't done. He had big plans for Rome. His next target? The Parthian Empire. Now, if you're not familiar, Parthia was one of Rome's biggest rivals in the east, what is today modern-day Iran and parts of Iraq. Caesar wanted to invade, defeat them, and push Rome's borders even further. Some historians believe that if he had succeeded, Rome might have extended its control deeper into Asia. And that's not all. He also planned to strengthen Rome's hold on Germania and Britain. One of the biggest debates among historians is whether Caesar's survival could have changed the course of Western civilization itself. We all know what happened after Rome fell. The empire collapsed, and Europe entered the Dark Ages, a period of economic decline, lost knowledge, and political instability. But what if Rome had never fallen so soon? Think about it. If Caesar had solidified a stable empire, could Rome have lasted longer? Could technological and cultural progress have continued uninterrupted? Imagine a world where engineering, philosophy, and science had flourished without a break. Would we be centuries ahead of where we are today? But let's not assume everything would have been perfect. Even if Caesar had survived, could he have ruled indefinitely? He had enemies, powerful ones. The Senate feared his dominance. His assassination showed that people were willing to kill to stop him. Even if he had escaped that first attempt, wouldn't there have been others? Would another Brutus have risen later? And let's say Caesar had ruled for another decade or two. What would have happened after his death? Would Rome still have fallen into civil war over who would succeed him? History shows us that power struggles were inevitable in Rome. If not in 44 BCE, then at some point in the future. So maybe, just maybe, Caesar's assassination didn't change Rome's fate, just its timeline. Julius Caesar's death reshaped history, but if he had lived, the world might have been a very different place. These are some questions you can ask yourself. Would Rome have been stronger? Would it have lasted longer? Or would the same power struggles have happened anyway? Let's now dive into one of the most biggest what-ifs in American history. What if the South had won the American Civil War? The Civil War was a turning point that shaped the future of the United States. The Union's victory ensured the preservation of the nation and led to the abolition of slavery. But let's imagine a different outcome, one where the Confederacy emerged victorious. How would that have changed America and around the world? If the South had secured independence, the United States would have been permanently divided into two nations, the Union in the North and the Confederacy in the South. The Confederacy's economy was built on slavery, and without Northern intervention, it likely would have continued for decades. Over time, this could have created a deeper racial divide, making social progress much slower. Think about it. If slavery had lasted longer, how would that have affected civil rights movements? Would figures like Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks have been able to make the same impact in a divided America? A weaker America on the world stage. Without a unified government and military, the North and South would have struggled to become a global superpower. The United States played a crucial role in both World War I and World War II, helping secure Allied victories. But if the nation had been split, would the divided states have had the same influence? Would the South have aligned with different world powers? Beyond military strength, technological and economic advancements might have been slowed down. The U.S. became a leader in industrialization, innovation, and technology in the late 19th and 20th centuries. But if the North and South had remained separate, competition and limited resources could have hindered progress. Let's talk about space exploration. The United States put a man on the moon in 1969, a feat driven by a strong united government. Would that have happened if the country had been divided? Would a Confederate-led nation have prioritized science and innovation, or would it have focused only on agriculture and trade? If the South had won, would America have ever found a way to reunite? Some historians believe that even if the Confederacy had secured independence over time, it might have rejoined the Union due to economic and political pressures. The implications of a Confederate victory are vast and unsettling. The world we know it would be fundamentally different. America would likely be weaker, more divided, and possibly less advanced. The Union's victory ensured the modern United States as we know it today, a nation that grew into a global superpower. History is shaped by countless choices, events, and moments, many of which could have gone in different directions. Today, we explore just a few of the fascinating what-if scenarios that could have rewritten history as we know it. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many other moments in history that we could analyze. So, if you enjoyed this episode, let me know, and we can explore more alternate histories in the future. As always, thanks for tuning in to History with a Twist. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Please also follow us on our social media. All the links will be in the description. And if you have your own favorite what-if scenario, share it with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, I'm Hans, and remember, history isn't just about what happened. It's also about what could have happened.